Hi, friends. Father Carey here, and this is another Holy Spirit moment. This one, the second part of a three-part series about films that feed the soul. I have linked to the first part in the episode notes below. I'm not quite sure why it is, but there's something about the American culture that resists making what I consider to be good Christ-themed films. It seems that either we come up with Cecil B. DeMille-ish Hollywood extravaganzas, or we come up with preachy and finger-wagging evangelical exercises. No, for my money, the best Christ-themed films are made in foreign lands. And by best films, I mean those that don't necessarily try to convert anyone, but instead explore those deep, deep issues that confront all human beings, Christian or otherwise. Questions about mortality, questions about value, questions about human relationships, questions about the ultimate purpose of human existence, if there is an ultimate purpose to human existence. So even though the 5 films that I'm going to recommend to you today, and recommend to you, I hope, without any spoilers, are foreign made, they really aren't foreign to any of us who crave to explore the deepest recesses of who we are. The first film I would like to recommend to you today is a 1928 silent movie that is entitled, in English, The Passion of Joan of Arc. And of course, it deals with the historical figure Joan of Arc, who was executed in the year 1431. It is directed by the Danish Carl Theodor Dreyer, and it is a remarkable film. Because Dreyer made this a silent movie, it is important for him, in order to convey the message he wants to convey, to focus very squarely upon the faces of the actors in the film. And the young woman who plays the lead, who plays Joan of Arc, Maria Falconetti, is an individual who is a wonderful master at portraying different human emotions simply through her facial expressions. So we see her in close-ups that last a long time. These are long shots in Dreyer's film, exhibit all of Joan's passing emotions as she rallies the troops against British forces, as she is in ecstatic prayer, as she is captured, as she is interrogated and tortured, and as finally she is executed. The scenery for this particular film is stark and rather foreboding, and it perfectly fits, it seems to me, the mood that Dreyer wants to portray in the film. That is the oppressiveness that institutional religion, Christianity, let's be frank, can burden an individual like Joan of Arc with. Second film I'd like to recommend to you today is entitled, in English, Jesus of Montreal. It was released in 1989, and the director is Denis Arnaud. It's a beautiful little film. The plot is this. A rather conventional parish priest in Montreal has been hosting a passion play for 35 years every summer. But he realizes that the script he's been using has become kind of stale, and so he enlists the aid of a young actor, beautifully played by Lothar Bluteau, to beef up the production. And this character's name is Daniel. And what Daniel does is to go out and recruit a rather motley bunch of out-of-work actors to work with him in producing a modernized passion play. And as the film progresses, you realize that Daniel actually is a Christ figure. The poet Jared Manley Hopkins, the 19th century Jesuit poet, once beautifully wrote that Christ plays in 10,000 places. And I believe that this film shows us one of the places that Christ plays in, through the character Daniel. The next film I'd like to recommend to you is a 2010 film. It's also French. The English title is Of Gods and Men. In 1996, in Algeria, during the Algerian Civil War, when France was beginning to finally pull out of the Algeria that it had colonized, a group of Cistercian monks who lived in the Atlas Mountains in a little village called Tiberine were massacred by Islamist fundamentalists. The film focuses upon a dramatization of their final months. These 9 monks who were slain had to face the question of whether they remained in a situation that was becoming increasingly hostile, helping the villagers as they had done for years, and trusting in God, or whether they should flee, as they were being encouraged to do, not only by the civil authorities, but by their religious superiors as well. They chose to remain, and the film is a sensitive and artistically beautiful, as a matter of fact, exploration of the soul searching that went into their final decision. The British-French actor Michael Lonsdale portrays one of the monks. I believe it might have been his final cinematic performance before his own death, and he is absolutely exquisite in his portrayal. I really can't recommend this film highly enough. The fourth film that I would like to recommend to you is a Russian film, the English title of which is The Island. Of the 5 films that I'm recommending to you today, each and every one of which I adore, this has got to be my very, very favorite, The Island. It is cinematically gorgeous to look at. The setting is a monastery on an island in the White Sea, far, far, far in the north. And so the landscape is snowbound. And the main character is a fool for Christ named Anatoly. Now, you remember that St. Paul tells us that what we must become are fools for Christ. That is, we somehow must put away worldly wisdom and prudential thinking and offer ourselves as conduits for Christ's Spirit. That's precisely who and what the main character Anatoly is in this wonderful film that was directed by Pavel Lungin. It came out in 2006. Anatoly is a holy man who is burdened by a terrible sense of guilt. And the film's trajectory takes us back to where that burden was imposed and where it ultimately leads Anatoly. A beautiful, beautiful, soul-searching film. You will be changed, I promise you, by watching it. Just as an interesting footnote, the actor who plays Anatoly is Pyotr Mamonov, who was at one time a pretty popular rock star in Russia. The final film that I would like to recommend to you today is an Irish film, and it is entitled Calvary. It came out in 2014, and it was directed by John Michael McDonough. It stars Brendan Gleeson, who I suspect you have seen in many other films, and it co-stars actually Kelly Riley, a wonderful British actress who plays his daughter. Brendan Gleeson plays the character of a late vocation priest. He was married, he had a daughter, Kelly Riley, and he, after the death of his wife, becomes a priest in a small Irish village. He is hearing confession one day, and as he sits in his booth, someone comes in on the other side and says to him, "Father, I was molested by priests when I was a child, and I am going to kill an innocent priest. Has to be an innocent priest in order to somehow seek my retribution. And by the way, Father, that priest is going to be you, and I'm going to kill you a week from Sunday." That's at the beginning of the film. And the entire rest of the film is an exploration of the final week of this priest's life. Brendan Gleeson, who I don't believe is a God believer, plays the role in such a sensitive but sometimes brusque way that he is entirely plausible. This film, of course, invites us to think about the scandal that rocked the church a few years ago, and from which the church really has not yet recovered. Innocent victims were abused by predator priests. How is the response of this person in the confessional booth who says that he's going to kill an innocent priest any different? My friends, I really do invite you to try and watch all of these films if you can. Most of them can be found online, either through a streaming platform or YouTube, as a matter of fact. I will see you again real soon with the concluding episode of this three-part series about movies that feed the soul. Thank you so much. God bless. If you are of a mind, I invite you to subscribe. At any rate, I'll see you soon. Take care and bye-bye.